is underway right now, so that the station is just about 200 meters away on my left, and this tragedy took place right next to the station when the trains were coming out. And this entire area needs to be cleared. This is within a range of 1 kilometer, and it's absolutely chaotic. If you can see multiple agencies working in, if you can give a top shot and show our viewers the sense. It's going to be nightfall very soon. Lights would be on, and overnight we believe that this operation will be conducted. And there is a lot of energy and buzz. Lights are being brought in, as I said, because it's going to be pitch dark, and it's the entire work is going on a war footing, because this track needs to be operational once again. Unless that happens,
yes.
Trains won't be able to come on this track. So in order to operationalize this railway route via Balasore, which is a very important route, mind you, the multi-agency restoration work is currently underway. Gaurav.
Stay with me and I'll come back to you on this. But for the moment, I quickly want to cut across and once again listen into Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where he insists the strongest possible action will be taken against those responsible for this massive train tragedy.
असह्य वेदना मैं अनुभव कर रहा हूं और अनेक राज्यों के नागरिक इस यात्रा में कुछ न कुछ उन्होंने गंवाया है। जिन लोगों ने अपना जीवन खोया है, ये बहुत बड़ा दर्दनाक और वेदना से भी परे मन को विचलित करने वाला। जिन परिवारजनों को इंजरी हुई है, उनके लिए भी सरकार उनके उत्तम स्वास्थ्य के लिए कोई कोर कसर नहीं छोड़ेगी। जो परिजन हमने खोए हैं वो तो वापस नहीं ले पाएंगे, लेकिन सरकार उनके दुख में, उन परिजनों के दुख में उनके साथ है। सरकार के लिए ये घटना अत्यंत गंभीर है। हर प्रकार की जांच के निर्देश दिए गए हैं और जो भी दोषी पाया जाएगा उसको सख्त से सख्त सजा हो, उसे बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। मैं उड़ीसा सरकार का भी, यहाँ के प्रशासन के सभी अधिकारियों का, जिन्होंने जिस तरह से इस परिस्थिति में अपने पास जो भी संसाधन थे लोगों की मदद करने का प्रयास किया, मैं यहाँ के नागरिकों का भी हृदय से अभिनंदन करता हूँ, क्योंकि उन्होंने इस संकट की घड़ी में, चाहे ब्लड डोनेशन का काम हो, चाहे रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में मदद की बात हो, जो भी उनसे बन पड़ता था करने का प्रयास किया है। खास करके इस क्षेत्र के युवकों ने रात भर मेहनत की है। मैं इस क्षेत्र के नागरिकों का भी आदरपूर्वक नमन करता हूं कि उनके सहयोग के कारण ऑपरेशन को तेज गति से आगे बढ़ा पाए। रेलवे ने अपनी पूरी शक्ति, पूरी व्यवस्थाएं रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में आगे रिलीफ के लिए, और जल्द से जल्द ट्रैक रिस्टोर हो, यातायात का काम तेज गति से फिर से आए, इन तीनों दृष्टि से सुविचारित रूप से प्रयास आगे बढ़ाया है। लेकिन एक दुख की घड़ी में मैं आज स्थान पर जाकर के सारी चीजों को देख करके आया हूं। अस्पताल में भी जो घायल नागरिक थे उनसे मैंने बात की है। मेरे पास शब्द नहीं है इस वेदना को प्रकट करने के लिए, लेकिन परमात्मा हम सबको शक्ति दे कि हम जल्द से जल्द इस दुख की घड़ी से निकले।
This tragedy is truly heartbreaking, but what is heartening is the fact that locals came out in large numbers, worked through the night to rescue as many people as was possible and took them to hospital as quickly as possible. Also, the state disaster response teams, they acted quickly, taking the injured to hospital. But now is that bigger question. While the work is on for restoration of the track, equally important to fix accountability. Who's responsible for more than 260 deaths and more than 900 injuries? We will continue to ask those tough questions. A quick break. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
Funding winter is taking a heavy toll on Indian startups. Sakshi?
Well, that's right. It's another day, another write down, and valuation cuts continue to plague unicorn startups in India. Now, we've seen in the recent weeks that many marquee investors have been slashing valuations of a number of new age technology companies, including Byju's, Ola, and even Swiggy. In fact, it's Byju's which has faced a reduction in valuations by BlackRock, the global leader in asset management, for the second time this year. In fact, BlackRock, which owns less than 1% in Byju's, has now valued the firm at $8.2 billion. That is 62.7% lower than the $22 billion valuation that the company was ascribed to in October of 2022. Now, this markdown comes right after February, when BlackRock had slashed the valuation of Byju's to about $11 billion. Now, apart from this, US-based investor Fidelity Investments has also cut the fair value of its holding in e-commerce firm Meesho by around 10% to around $4.4 billion. Now, it had originally led a Series F round in the startup at a valuation of $4.9 billion. Now, remember that valuation is a mix of fundamentals, potential, and market sentiment, and the current market sentiment is driven by high interest rates and has increased the cost of capital and has also forced startups to focus more on profitability rather than growth. Now, in the absence of profits and the external validations of valuations through funding rounds, accounting standards and investor risk frameworks definitely demand markdowns of valuations. Experts, however, believe that although markdowns do not directly impact the companies, they may still have unfavorable implications for the future funding rounds of these companies and even the IPO plans of these firms going forward.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Now.
Pranav Salkar saw his mother struggle to get water after coming back from work every day. The nearest source of water was half a kilometer away. Pained by this sight, the 14-year-old took matters into his own hands. He started digging a well, and in 4 days, he struck gold.
त्याला मी एक सूचना दिली होती काही ते खून थोडंसं पाणी टाकतो का आपण बघूया. नंतर आम्ही मग कामावर जायची सुरुवात केली. मग त्यांनी मनापासून सुरुवात केली खोदायला. त्याच्याकरता त्यांनी खोदता 3-4 दिवस त्यांनी लावले आणि पाणी लागलं.
Pranav's parents speak fondly of their son's efforts. They recount how he had made a ladder to dig out soil from the pit.
आम्ही मजुरी करतो. आम्ही संध्याकाळी येतो काम करून.
मला त्रास होतो म्हणून माझ्या मुलाने विहीर खोदली 4 दिवसात मला आनंद वाटतो.
ते पाणी तुम्ही वापरता का?
त्या पाणी आम्ही वापरतो.
Kelve village in Palghar gets piped water thrice a week. To Pranav's parents, who work as labourers, the well is a relief. And it goes without saying, Pranav is now a hero in his village. Bureau Report, India Today.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 39 and minimum 26 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 33 and minimum 28 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 41 and minimum 29 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 34 and minimum 25 degrees. Chennai, maximum 37 and minimum 30 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 40 and minimum 31 degrees.
Rahul Srivastava has been waiting very patiently. Rahul, weigh in on Rahul Gandhi calling the Indian Union Muslim League completely secular party, and Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur saying they see Hindus as terrorists and Muslim League as secular.
Gaurav, political parties handing out these secular, communal, national, anti-national certificates is a separate debate. The Congress has tied up with Shiv Sena, which was at one time communal. The BJP tied up with PDP. So these are debates which are different. If you see the current context in the last 50 odd years, one can say that the IUML has tried to establish itself, its legitimacy as a political party representing minority interest within the what I call the pluralistic Indian polity. There have been not many charges vis-a-vis anti-Hindu statements and others. They attack the BJP. That's a different matter altogether. What Shehzad says, rightly, history records it. I don't know whether it really happened, but history records it. The Jawaharlal Nehru, with the divisive agenda of Jinnah, did oppose the reorganization of Muslim League if it was happening. And in fact, he told Lord Mountbatten, the Governor General at that time, that the government eventually should be crushing these kind of attempts. But Gaurav, what in the last few years one has known the IUML, I will like to relate that it is more steeped in orthodoxy and conservatism. The ban on Haritha movement, the students' union, that it was dissolved in 2021 when there were sexual charges, harassment charges leveled by girls. January 2023, the LGBTQ community, the remarks were regressive. December 2021, Abdul Rahman Radat Ali spoke against the mixed schooling being given students, boys and girls sitting together. They said that it will promote homosexuality. Beyond that, let's see what political parties have been doing. 20th March 2023, RSS leaders who were at that time on a Muslim outreach program with Jamaat-e-Ulama Hind and others, PN Ishwaran, State Prant Karewah of the RSS, he said that the IUML, despite the IUML coalition with the Congress, was a democratic party and did not promote extremist views.
Okay.
KNA Khadir of the IUML was there at a function called Sneh Bodhi Cultural Meeting in the Kesri Bhavan in Kozhikode, June 2022. So RSS has been making overtures to the IUML.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 39 and minimum 26 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 33 and minimum 28 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 41 and minimum 29 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 34 and minimum 25 degrees. Chennai, maximum 37 and minimum 30 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 40 and minimum 31 degrees.
88 people dead, 56 grievously injured, 747 with minor injuries, a total of 1,091 people impacted. This is one of the worst railway tragedies in recent times. We are tracking every aspect. We are trying to determine what went wrong, why, and who's responsible, and that's part of our live and continuing coverage here on India Today.
One of India's worst train tragedies. Three trains crash, nearly 300 dead. Survivors escape death by just inches. India numbed by the scale of this tragedy. Prime Minister's presence, a balm for the wounded. Will the Prime Minister ensure someone pays for this? What is the cost of 280 Indian lives?
The government has been working on a new railway safety mechanism called Kavach. Kavach unfortunately wasn't installed on the line where this accident took place. We'll try and determine why not, what's the hold up, and could this terrible, terrible tragedy have been prevented. Here are the headlines. We're tracking this. Prime Minister Modi takes stock of the situation in Balasore, meets survivors in the hospital, promises that the guilty will not be spared.
जो भी दोषी पाया जाएगा उसको सख्त से सख्त सजा हो, उसे बख्शा नहीं जाएगा.
Signalling failure led to one of India's worst train tragedies. India Today accesses preliminary probe report into the Odisha train accident. Death toll rises to 280 in the Odisha train tragedy. Thousands injured. Locals line up at Balasore Hospital to donate blood. Politics erupts over the tragedy. Mamata Banerjee says anti-collision system wasn't working while standing next to the Railways Minister. Ashwini Vaishnav fact-checks the Bengal Chief Minister after she claims that 500 people are dead.
मैंने तो सुना कि इसमें 500 भी हो सकता है. 3 डिब्बा अभी तक नहीं रेस्क्यू हुआ है.
सारा कंप्लीट हो गया.
आपको कंप्लीट होने के बाद कितना हुआ?
238.
238 कल था. उसका बाद
आज का जो ऑफिशियल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का जो डेटा है वो 238.
Bus carrying survivors of the Balasore accident meets with an accident in West Midnapur. No casualties reported. Nearly 300 dead with over 1,000 injured. This is one of India's worst train tragedies. A triple train collision with survivors escaping death by just inches. India is numbed by the scale of this train tragedy. Here's how the horror unfolded.
Three coaches derailed, more than 280 dead. India's worst train tragedy in more than 2 decades struck Odisha on Friday. Two passenger trains and a goods train collided in Balasore district in a turn of events that left scores of families in 4 states in grief. At 6:55 p.m., the Coromandel Express from Shalimar to Chennai was moving at a high speed as it approached Bahanagar Bahar station, where it had no stop. It took to a loop line where a goods train was already parked. The Coromandel Express hit the goods train head-on. The impact was such, 21 of its coaches derailed. 3 of them fell on the adjacent track on which the Yeshwantpur-Howrah Express was moving. The derailed bogies of the Coromandel hit the incoming train. The 2 rear coaches of the Yeshwantpur-Howrah Express also derailed. It all happened in 5 minutes, leaving twisted coaches and lifeless bodies strewn all around. The crash site was about 250 kilometers south of Kolkata and 170 kilometers north of Bhubaneswar, the distance making relief all the more tough.
बार में ट्रेन गिर गया, पीछे वाला जो जनरल बोगी हमारा गिर गया, तो हम जाल लगा साइड पे था, जो भी सामान टामान है पूरा मेरे हाथ पे गिर गया और एक हाथ जाला से निकल गया। जितने लोग थे मेरे आमने सामने बहुत आदमी का खून खान हुआ, कोई मर गया। जो बोगी में हम लोग था पीछे वाला दरवाजा तोड़ दिया है, उसको भी खत्म कर दिया है और साथ में लिया तो वो दूसरा बोगी में था, उसको तो पता भी नहीं लगा अभी तक कहाँ है कहाँ नहीं है।
The task was huge. Most of the coaches had suffered damage. Passengers had to be pulled out, in some cases cutting through the mangled iron debris.
भीषण गर्मी है यहाँ पे और एनडीआरएफ की टीम, आर्मी की टीम, ओडिशा डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट की टीम सब सुबह से डटे हुए हैं। पूरी रात वो लोग ये काम किए हैं। जिस बोगी को इस वक्त काटने की कोशिश हो रही है गैस कटर से, अब देखिए उस बोगी का हाल क्या है। 3 बोगी एक के ऊपर दूसरा वहाँ पे चढ़ गया है। मैं आपको दिखाने की कोशिश करूँगा। ये देखिए यहाँ पे 3 बोगियाँ हैं। पहले ये है मालगाड़ी सबसे नीचे, उसके ऊपर जो काटा जा रहा है वो एक बोगी है और उसके ऊपर और एक बोगी है। ये दोनों ही बोगी कोरोमंडल एक्सप्रेस का है और जो काटने की कोशिश हो रही है, हम लोग सुबह से देख रहे थे, बहुत ही परेशानी हो रही है एनडीआरएफ की टीम को उस मलबे को साफ करके वहां से डेड बॉडी निकालने की।
Rescuers moved from one bogie to another, looking for life.
देखिए ये इतना भीषण अभिघात है। ये जो ट्रेन है ये कोरोमंडल एक्सप्रेस के जो पार्सल वैन है बिल्कुल पलट चुका है और इतना भीषण था ये हादसा कि इसके बगल वाले जो इलेक्ट्रिक के जो खंबे थे, बिजली के खंबे जिसके जरिए इन पटरियों पर रफ्तार पकड़ती हुई ये ट्रेनें दौड़ती है, वो बिल्कुल उखड़ गया, बिल्कुल यहाँ से वहाँ हो गया और वो बिल्कुल पलट चुका है। ये वो जगह है जहाँ पर सबसे ज्यादा हादसे की जो निशान अब देखी जा सकती है।
Over 200 ambulances, 50 buses and 45 mobile health units were rushed to the site. More than 1,200 personnel deployed. By Saturday morning, the Indian Air Force and Indian Army too joined the rescue operations.
एनडीआरएफ की टीम पहली टीम ही 1.25 घंटे के अंदर वहां पहुंच गई थी। उसके बाद हमने 8 एडिशनल टीमें भेजी हैं। टोटल 9 टीमें वहां काम कर रही हैं। 300 रेस्क्यूज हैं। उसके साथ साथ में स्टेट डिजास्टर रिस्पांस फोर्स की बड़ी संख्या ऑर्डरएफ की वहां उपलब्ध है। तो मैन पावर की, इक्विपमेंट की कोई कमी नहीं है। लेकिन एक बहुत ही बड़ा हादसा है। काफी कोचेज इन्वॉल्व हैं। जिस मोमेंटम से क्रश हुए हैं उसमें घुसने में दिक्कत इस तरह की आती है कि लाइव विक्टिम हो तो कटिंग में उसको नुकसान ना हो, तो हमें बहुत ध्यान से काम करना पड़ता है।
Railway sources tell India Today initial signs point to signal failure. How did the Coromandel Express land on a loop line with a parked goods train? An error that has cost hundreds of lives. Bureau Report, India Today.
I want to go across live to the accident site in Balasore in Odisha. Joining us from there as our West Bengal Bureau Chief Indrajit Kundu. Joining him is our colleague Ritvik Mondal from the accident spot. Indrajit, to you first. Has the track been cleared? One of the things the Prime Minister spoke of was the effort being made to try and clear the track so that railway trains could start plying on this track again. Has that process been completed or not yet?
The process is underway, but it'll take quite a lot of time because it's quite a Herculean task, Rahul, to remove all these massive, compartments which are completely mangled and lying on top of each other. The visuals speak for themselves. Just a short while back, about 5 minutes back, we saw, the Yeshwantpur Express, which was the third train in this entire collision that was finally pulled away through the track. But the other 2 track completely destroyed, given the goods vehicle and the impact of the Coromandel Express. We can see very heavy duty cranes that have been put into action, and that happened all through this morning. All these cranes and hardware were brought in. Lights have been fixed. It's going to be a long light. It started last night, but today is going to be very important. But one good factor, of course, is that the Odisha government had this clear-cut challenge to recover all the dead bodies, because it's very hot and sultry. The dead bodies will decompose. So therefore, all the bodies have now been recovered from the debris, and they have been shifted to a nearby school, which has been turned into a morgue, and the process of identification is going on. So there are no dead bodies there. I spoke to a doctor this morning, and he said the chances of survival, even if there is somebody stuck there, is absolutely nil. So in that sense, there is no survival possibilities of anybody in there. So the only thing that the railways, along with other agencies, are trying to do is clear the passage. It's about 1 kilometer. I'll try and ask my camera person to show my right. It's about 1 kilometer stretch. If my camera person can pan and show to the audience, and massive, earth movers, cranes have all been put together now, so that quickly all these mangled bogies can be removed. But one issue, of course, that seems to be, a difficulty for the law enforcement agencies, is that there are too many bystanders who are coming in. And since morning, we saw that there has been good crowd management, because a lot of VIPs were moving in. The Odisha Chief Minister, West Bengal Chief Minister, Union Minister, and of course the Prime Minister. As soon as the Prime Minister chauffeur left, it was a free-for-all, and a lot of people, thousands of them, have actually come here and gathered. That remains a challenge. However, the Odisha agencies are on the task to clear the debris behind me within the next few days. Rahul.
Okay, I want to go across to Milan Sharma. Milan tracks the Railways Ministry for us. Now, one of the things that the government has been tom-tomming is this new railway security system, Kavach, that's been put in place. And the whole idea of Kavach is that it acts as an automatic train protection system, which could have potentially prevented this kind of an accident. Now, the railways in India has a total route length of 68,000 odd kilometers, out of which Kavach has been installed only on 1,455 kilometers so far. So this anti-collision system, which could have potentially prevented this accident, hadn't been installed, and this government has been claiming that railway safety is one of their biggest achievements.
Well, that's right, Rahul. In the information that we have, the covered system was not operational on this particular route in Balasore, where the Yashwantpur Howrah Express and the Coromandel Express lines were passing through. Remember that the Minister Railway Ashwini Vaishnav had done a trial of the covered system on one of the railway lines in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana earlier as well. But of course, the mandate was to install the covered software and systems in big express trains and very busy express trains like the Howrah-Mumbai, Howrah-Delhi routes till March 2024. And perhaps in this particular matter, it's not just the covered systems that would have worked, but a joint inspection report that has come forward has also mentioned how signals were given and received between the two trains, but still the train landed up going from the up line to the loop line. Now, there are train lines that are up and down, going from one side to the other side, but there was already a goods train on the loop line. That is where the Coromandel Express ended up going instead of going on the up line, despite the signals.
When you say ended up going, the train can't go by itself, right? So obviously something went wrong. Is this the responsibility of the person who's piloting that particular train, or is this the responsibility of the signaling team that's supposed to keep an eye on which train is on which track at that time?
Well, Rahul, when we say that it's the fault, where the fault lies, basically it's an entire system. Because if you've given the signals and they were working, was there a miscommunication between the signal that was being given and that was received? And secondly, there are various points on the tracks of the trains that are supposed to change when a signal for going forward or line change is given. Was that point shifted or towards the upline when the signal was given, that is another matter of investigation. It can be a human error as well, and it can be an automated error as well, which is what the Railway Ministry is currently investigating. But the initial inquiry report that was submitted immediately after this massive accident has happened does point to the fact that there was a signaling issue. And whether this issue is completely a human error or an automated error is certainly a matter of investigation for which a report will be submitted to the ministry. But it cannot be ruled out because signals in India, largely railway signals, are automated. But there is a requirement of staff that runs the signaling department, as well as those loco pilots who have to look at the signals that have come and follow them and not change lines wrongly, is what has happened in this particular case, where the loco moved from the upline to the loop line where the goods train was stationed. It got derailed. Signaling issues is one of the biggest reasons that derailments happen many times, and that is one of the areas that is currently a matter of investigation as well.
Okay, so we're told that 1,091 people have been impacted by this train accident, out of which 288, when the reports last came, are dead. 56 grievously injured and 747 have various kinds of injuries. I want to go across to Ritvik Mondal, who's in Balasore tracking this for us. Do we have a sense of, how many of these people who are in hospital are recovering? Especially I'm concerned about the 56, which the railway report says are grievously injured at the moment.
All right, I could remember, Rahul, that it was absolutely horrifying visuals when we reached last night at the accident site. But we did see through today that the priorities were to remove the trapped people or the bodies and right inside those from the Bengal coaches of this the Coromandel Express. But now it has over, and the priorities are now to clear those the debris from the track, which is why now we can see that several cranes have been brought in to clean that particular track. But what as you rightly pointed out, there are several other concern. Those who are struggling for their lives in several hospitals surrounded, particularly in Balasore, we are given to understand many of them. It's at least nearly over 1,000 people, passengers, who were traveling in particularly these two passenger trains. One was Kolkata bound, Yashwantpur Express. Another was Chennai bound Coromandel Express, which had the massive impact of the accident. And in this particular, accident, over thousands passengers have been, impacted, and several have been undergoing treatments in hospital, and many of them, they are, struggling for life, what we have been learned. But as additional, medical facilities are being, provided to them, and what we have learned that additional team of doctors have also been summoned, and round the clock they are also monitoring the situations. Now situations were absolutely, it was an absolutely massacre-like situation last night when they were hurriedly, taken to nearby hospitals, particularly one stated in Balasore, in Kendupara, or Solo town. But now what we know, that situation are more, developing, and the medical facilities, as per the additional medical facilities, rather the advanced medical facilities are being provided to them. Okay. I will definitely leave you with these visuals that we can see that NDRF teams are now moving back from the this particular accident site. They really done a wonderful job since last night. I did see the team of NDRF and several team of NDRF personnel, they were summoned, and today, since the VR, that army was also called in, and later on when they realizes that these are the very crucial time to pull those debris, pull those bodies from those debris, which is why additional army forces were also called in. So now currently these are the tracks are being.
Ritvik, we'll come back to you in a moment. I want to go across to Kirti Azad, leader of the Trinamool Congress, who's joining us on this broadcast. But before I go across to Mr. Azad, I want to show you what the Prime Minister said when he visited Balasore, and also what Mamata Banerjee said, an element of politics creeping in, completely avoidable at this time when there's been so much death and the country is trying to come to terms with this tragedy. Let's listen to the Prime Minister after he took stock of this tragedy, and the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, who was also near the accident site.
सरकार के लिए ये घटना अत्यंत गंभीर है। हर प्रकार की जांच के निर्देश दिए गए हैं और जो भी दोषी पाया जाएगा उसको सख्त से सख्त सजा हो, उसे बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। जिन परिवारजनों को इंजरी हुई है उनके लिए भी सरकार उनके उत्तम स्वास्थ्य के लिए कोई कोर कसर नहीं छोड़ेगी। जो परिजन हमने खोए हैं वो तो वापस नहीं ले पाएंगे, लेकिन सरकार उनके दुख में, उन परिजनों के दुख में उनके साथ है।
इतना लोगों को जिंदगी जैसे चला गया। मैंने तो सुना कि इसमें 500 भी हो सकता है। 3 डिब्बा अभी तक नहीं रेस्क्यू हुआ है।
सारा कंप्लीट हो गया दीदी।
आप कंप्लीट होने के बाद कितना हुआ?
238।
238 कल था, उसका बाद
आज का जो ऑफिशियल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का जो डेटा है वो 238।
Mr. Azad, at a time of such tragedy, for the former Railways Minister and your boss, the West Bengal Chief Minister, to try and openly politicize or seek to raise questions about the death toll, make it seem as if somehow something is being hidden, the real number isn't being given, the real number is much more. Now, these are very immature things for a very seasoned politician to be doing at a time of a terrible tragedy.
Well, it's definitely a terrible tragedy, but definitely anybody who's an elected person, whether he is an elected member of parliament or an MLA or a chief minister or a minister, you are going to ask these questions. And once you say that 3 bogies have not yet been checked, so obviously there are going to be more casualties. So there's nothing wrong in asking about it. And when you and I talk in India Today studio, we are not doing the relief work at Balasore, so we can talk about it. And we can talk about it, what is the failure? It's a system failure. It's the automatic line system failure which changes the line. They talked about derailment. That means, no checking, nothing has been done. There's so many things that are coming out of it. So it's quite definitely very devastating that has taken place due to the negligence of the Ministry of Railways and the Government of India.
No, while there have been some train accidents as recently as January 2022, 2017, December 2016, November 2016, there hasn't been a major tragedy of this kind. I'm going back for a very long time, say maybe 1990, where in Gaisal 290 people died. There were some big tragedies like the Gyaneshwari Express disaster in 2010. But the government can say this is a systemic issue. We're trying to make the changes as fast as is possible. 20,000 crore rupees are allocated every year for railway safety works, and we're trying to get the job done as efficiently as is humanly possible.
Minor mishaps, let me answer the first part of your question. The minor mishaps take place, but you said that no major accident has taken place. I think you need to go and check your records again.
No,
in 2016, Patna-Indore Express,
one second.
115 people were killed.
Mr. Azad, so that you don't get this wrong, I'm saying a tragedy of this scale.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
I'm not calling it a minor tragedy, okay? Whatever's happened in 2016, 17, 22, that's a very significant tragedy. The point I made was a tragedy of this scale. That's that. Don't lose that reference. But go on.
Patna-Indore Express, 115 people died. Do you think that is minor? 150 people were injured, and many of them grievously injured who became handicapped, 135 of them. So 115 killed, 135 became handicaps, and there were only 15 who recovered from that accident. This is, I'm talking about 2016, same government. Mamata Banerjee in 2011 and 12, she had introduced train collision avoidance system which is called Suraksha Kavach now. It was introduced then. In 2019, they woke up after 2016 train accident, and they started working with 3 companies who make this. You know, there are 68,043 kilometers of lines, railway lines across the country, of which only 1,445 are covered under Suraksha. Only 2%, 98% is absolutely left like that. And once you talk about, I was watching a video where the Honorable Railway Minister says the anti-collusion system that we have, the Suraksha Kavach की एक ट्रेन इधर से आ रही होगी, एक इधर से आ रही होगी, तो दोनों रुक जाएगी. अगर एक आगे जा रही होगी, पीछे जा रही होगी, तो पीछे वाली रुक जाएगी. I mean, all that we were hearing. Where was that anti-collusion, that Suraksha Kavach system? Where was it that we've been listening to? Just to gain a few, make a few brownie points, you come up with the name of Suraksha Kavach, changing what Mamata Banerjee had done earlier. So there are big questions that have to be asked in this government. There's no railway budget 2017. No railway budget, nothing goes in there. There are lakhs of vacancies in the railways, which are for those who are linemen who check these where derailments take place. There are no people at the crossings that we generally have. There are basics that are required, are not there. You have a railway board, yes. You have these officer general managers, yes, GMs on the various zones. But what about the basic that should be there? And what we see now is negligence. There has been no maintenance if that's a signal failure. And if it is a signal failure, where was the Suraksha Kavach to stop the trains from colliding with each other?
No, some of these are very good questions. The fact that the Suraksha Kavach hasn't been implemented en masse, that it's just on 2% of the overall trail tracks. And also, I'm looking here at a CAG report which says that the overall expenditure on priority 1 works from the National Railway Safety Fund is actually showing a declining trend from 81.55% in 2017-18 to 73.6% in 2019-20. So the funds that are available are not being utilized 100%, and that again is a problem we will track. I'm going to slip into a break. We'll have more for you when we come back. We'll have officials who've been with the NDRF. We'll have officials from the Indian Railways joining us as well. We have our reporters on the ground. We're tracking the story very closely because questions need to be asked and systemic changes need to be brought so that if there are mechanisms that exist which can prevent an accident of this nature, they need to be made available and deployed where it's required the most. I'll slip into a break. We'll have more for you when we come back on the other side. Stay with us.
I was basically told that I am not going to get this disease ever again, and that my life is I can move ahead with my life, and this disease is sort of a past. But this disease came back again in 2013, and it was in May 2013 in fact, and I was told by the doctor that you have got TB again, and it was a huge shock for me. It was a very horrifying battle of life and death. I would often wonder that what has happened to me, is this like just something that's only happened to me, or is the disease so out there, more prevalent?
India has the most tuberculosis cases in the world. India is home to over a quarter of the world's 10 million tuberculosis patients. Tuberculosis, which is commonly spread through the air when an infected person coughs or sneezes, usually affects the lungs, but can also affect other parts of the body. Tuberculosis infected Nandita Venkateshan's intestines in August 2007, causing stomachache a month after she began her graduation. Nandita was busy battling tuberculosis and the stigma associated with the disease at a time when her peers were hanging out in campus hotspots, creating memories. She was assured that the treatment would bring an end to her woes, but that was not meant to be. Her stomach aches returned a few years later in 2013.
I was told by the doctor that you have got TB again, and it was a huge shock for me because I was looking to start my career, and there I could see that my whole life was coming to a complete standstill again. And this time the doctor told us that the disease is become quite severe in its form. Also told me that you will have to undergo one surgery where the infected portion of the intestine will be removed altogether.
The reappearance of the infection needed intense treatment, including 6 surgeries to remove contaminated portions of her bowel and a series of medication injections. Despite the fact that the injections cured her TB, Nandita awoke in her home to quite a few days after her 24th birthday. She could not hear her brother talk to her. She had lost her hearing.
And so, what are your plans for electric mobility? Because MGL is at the heart of supplying gas, but electric is quite different from a gas-based company. So, but I'm sure you might be looking at an electric vehicle revolution that's literally on the verge of burst and a penetration in India. Could you give us a sense what MGL is doing in electric mobility?
Yeah, I think electric mobility is a very active space. A lot of technologies are being developed, and we see that a lot of penetration is happening in two-wheeler side. Around 80-90% vehicles of electric vehicles are being sold in India is two-wheelers, and more penetration is expected to take forward in three-wheeler segment. So we are watching the space very closely. We are seeing how the competitors are doing, what are the startups, because several startup companies are also working in this sphere. So we are also talking to some of the EV companies to see if something fits in, and we may take some equity partnership in some of these companies or one of these companies to see that we know how the sector is going to unfold. But as far as CNG is concerned, we have in all India basis around 3 to 4% penetration. And with the recent policy initiative, one report, energy transition report was published by Prime Minister Office. It says that any city having more than population of 1 million, they are going to phase out four-wheelers in diesel sphere. So all that segment plus commercial vehicles, again, the penetration of CNG is very low. So we are focusing on the areas where we can find a space. And in my view, kitty is so large that all these fuels can coexist. It is not that if electric vehicle comes, CNG will be totally displaced. Even if the phasing out has to happen, it will be the dirtiest fuel first. Let us say coal, followed by diesel, then petrol, and then CNG and electric vehicles can coexist for a longer period.
And so what are the CAPEX plans? There were reports of about 600 to 800 crore CAPEX lined up for this year. How do you plan to fund it? Is also land bank monetization on the plans?
No, we have internal generation is more than sufficient to fund the capex plan. Right now, last year we have 790 CR of profit, and we have around 250 crore of depreciation. Plus, we give around 260 crore of dividend last year we have declared. So in cash generation, we have around 700 crore availability, and same is what we are doing to capex plan. The funding for the new acquisition will be done from treasury surplus, which is around 1500 CR. So, the funds are available. I don't think we will be required to take debt as such in this financial year at least.
Those who survived the Balasore tragedy have horror stories of bloodbath on the tracks. India today has the biggest network of reporters on the ground, documenting tales of tragedy and hope. Take a look.
The train tragedy in Odisha has torn apart families across 3 states. This one in Bengal's South 24 Parganas district has lost 3 members. Haran Gayan, Nishikant Gayan, Dibakar Gayan were travelling to Andhra Pradesh on the Coromandel Express to rejoin work. The brothers were migrant workers and bread earners for their family. This hospital in Balasore is where the victims of the train accident were rushed to. Every ward, every room, every inch taken by people who need care. Every one of them has a story to tell. A lost friend, a missing family member.
हम उसका गांव का आदमी है, उसका माँ बाप वहाँ से फोन किया है, मेरा बच्चा को देखो, मेरा बच्चा का
कहाँ जा रहा था?
ये जा रहा था, चेन्नई जा रहा था।
पहले जैसे कि वो गाड़ी चलते चलते पता चला कि पटरी से गाड़ी उतरा, ऐसे ऐसे करते करते फिर पलटी मार दिया। मेरे ऊपर वो सीट टूट के गिरा गया।
सीट टूट के गिर गया आपके ऊपर?
हाँ, मैं उसमें जता गया था तो दूसरा आदमी सीट हटा के निकाला मेरे को बाहर।
आपका कोई है ट्रेन में?
Many were lucky to escape. Her husband was on the Bengaluru-Howrah Superfast Express, one of the trains involved in the collision. News has reached the family. He is safe.
हम भी डर गए, हम तो पूरा कंफ्यूज हो गए। फोन लग नहीं रहा है, कांटेक्ट हो नहीं रहा है, अगला बंदा भी किसी से साथ कांटेक्ट नहीं हो रहा है। जब कांटेक्ट हुआ तब दिल को सुकून आया, तब इनको कांटेक्ट किया। अब बोले बस माने सर जी अच्छे हैं।
Shubroto Paul had boarded the Coromandel Express with his family from Kharagpur. Paul says he felt a big jolt. When he gained consciousness, he was under the rubble. After spending almost an hour trapped in the debris, Paul and his wife and kid were rescued.
बालासोर स्टेशन के बाद ट्रेन एक झांकुनी दिया, उसके बाद देखा है कैमरा में टोटली धुआं। 45 मिनट, 1 घंटा से 45 मिनट के बाद उधर का लोकल का आदमी हमको बाहर निकला।
মানে বালেশ্বর পেরানোর পরেই ট্রেন দুর্ঘটনা, আমরা বুঝতেই পারছি না যে কি হচ্ছে, কিছুই তো বুঝতে পারছি না। সে সিট এলোমেলো, কাউকে খুঁজে পাচ্ছি না, ছেলে কোথায়, আমি কোথায়, কাউকেই খুঁজে পাচ্ছি না। অনেক এত কান্না, এত রক্তাক্ত, এত মৃত্যু চোখের সামনে, ভাবাই যায় না একদম।
Life for hundreds of families will never be the same again. Bureau Report, India Today.
The government's been making tall claims about the effort that's gone into security and railway modernization over the past 9 years. Rahul Srivastava, National Affairs Editor, joins us from track renewal, maintenance, track upgradation, welded rails. You know, the government's got a tall list of claims, but all of that doesn't really amount to very much if an accident of this nature can still happen, where almost 300 people are dead because 3 trains have collapsed. And as the world progresses, these kind of rail accidents are becoming less and less frequent all across the world, Rahul.
Yes, Rahul. If you see the Japanese bullet train, Shinkansen, there has not been a single collision or fatality in, although it has carried some 50 billion people. If you see the last 1 decade, barring Spain, there has been no developed nation which has recorded a collision of this kind or derailment in which there have been fatalities of this kind. Such incidents in the last 1 decade have been recorded in Congo, Cameroon, and say something like Taiwan, but none of the other developed nations. And that is why there are questions being definitely asked. The government says that, sources are saying that it inherited in 2014 an extremely crumbling railway system in which the unmanned gates and there were several other problems, and the anti-collision system was in its very nascent stages, were not properly tested. A lot has been done, but it also is the densest railway system in the world, and in that, it's a huge task for the government to eventually take charge of it. There have been some very discordant notes. In fact, the RJD, for example, has come out with a very strong criticism, and Mamta Banerjee of the TMC, though questions need to be asked, but it is also a fact, Rahul, if we have seen, over the last 2 decades, we saw that the railway ministry was largely that one of those typical handouts given to the dominant coalition partners. And the idea at one time, which we saw in 2014-15, the railway officials used to complain that there were too many trains launched with separation between the trains too little without an anti-collision system. And the railway tracks wasn't modernized or changed for decades. And it was an extremely crumbling system, which could not handle the frequency of trains or the load of the passengers as far as the track is concerned. The government is making claims, but that postmortem will come later. The Prime Minister took a meeting yesterday, and in which all these issues have been discussed. The Prime Minister, in fact, in his earlier Pragati meetings, also has been taking review of the progress railway is making. But the fact, one interesting element which we are speaking to the Odisha government source and others, that there has been no discordant note as far as the rescue effort between the government of Odisha and the centre is concerned. If I look at the kind of details that the Odisha government is sharing constantly with the media and also with the centre, they are providing regular bulletins, and they are saying that 9 NDRF teams, 5 ODARF teams, 24 fire services, more than 100 medical teams, more than 200 ambulances are already in operation, with Chhattisgarh and several other neighboring states contributing in it. I think one of the biggest worry remains, as the latest report which has just come in says, that rescue operation in one coach is still a bit of a problem.
Okay.
But they say
so
that
let me put that question to OP Singh. OP Singh has been, he's been former Director General of the NDRF, that's the National Disaster Response Force. And Mr. Singh, given the fact that we're now heading towards evening, and the sun sets faster in the east, and therefore the challenge of trying to be able to continue with the rescue operation even at night. From what you've understood on the basis of your experience, what are the challenges the NDRF team would be facing, given that now we're heading towards darkness?
Look, Rahul, I have been told that, and it has come in the TV also, that DG NDRF has gone on record to say that operations have concluded. And the fact that they have worked for more than 24 hours, they have been able to extricate a lot of bodies. In fact, 800 to 900 injured people. They are the ones who have been successfully extricated from those places, from those 23 coaches which had been derailed. It's a massive operation, no doubt to say. Not only that it's a national tragedy, but the fact that there have been 23 coaches derailed, more than 280 people have died, and almost 1,000 people have been injured. That speaks of the volume, the scale of the tragedy. But if you talk of the challenges, before that, I would like to pat the back of the NDRF that they have been able to capitalize the golden hours. Within 1 hour, one team from the nearest regional response center has been dispatched. They came onto the site. They started working along with other state agencies, and immediately within few hours, there were 9 teams. That means more than 300 people started working. It was a mammoth task. As a former DG of NDRF, I can imagine and visualize working in extreme hot conditions, working in the night, with almost covering a very vast area. 23 bogies is not a big thing. It's not a small thing. And then you had, on the top of it, you have the crowd surging towards it. You have the crowd management skill also to go for it. And the fact is that you have to clear the track also. These are few challenges which NDRF faces, whether it's an earthquake situation or a railway accidents like this. And, the problem of equipment, you have to extricate the cutting of those railway coaches, that becomes a very, very problematic problem. You have to keep in mind the safety of the individual, the safety of the victims. You have to think of the safety of the responders as well, because the one who is trying to do all such kind of operations. So these are some of the challenges. And then you can't bring the heavy equipment there. You can't bring immediately the earth mover, or for that matter, the cutters of different kinds. But still, whatever little equipment the NDRF carries, they start working in that, and we have been successful in so many cases. And I would like to compliment the NDRF team that by working day in and day out, perhaps they have been able to extricate so many live victims.
Sure.
And this is one of the achievements of the NDRF.
Sudhanshu Mani has led the Vande Bharat project. The government, Mr. Mani, making very grand claims about how the railway system has improved. But a terrible tragedy like the one at Balasore really holds a mirror to those claims. The Congress, in fact, has come out and attacked the government, saying that all you're doing is propaganda, you're making these tall claims, you're putting out ads about Operation Kavach. But the fact is that Kavach is installed only on 2% of the total railway network in the country.
To answer your question about improvement in safety, this is not a day to talk about improvement in safety. Nevertheless, if you look at the data, it's nothing to do with 2014 particularly. Over the years, the number of accidents have actually come down, fatalities have come down, and this has happened because of two main reasons. Elimination of unmanned level crossings. Most of them are either manned, or there is a great separation between road and track, and investment into an allotting time window for track maintenance. These are the reasons number of accidents have come down. Unfortunately, here in this accident, the circumstances were such, one train derailing, within seconds another train coming at full speed, a goods train standing in the loop line next to it. All this has made such a mangled mess, fully occupied trains, that fatalities have become so large that it will rank one of the worst years, although the number of accidents is less.
No, but try and explain to me, Mr. Mani, on the basis of what you know in the decades of experience that you have with the railways, what do you think went wrong in this case? Who didn't do his job? What system didn't operate the way it should have for three trains to collide with each other in this way?
So it's basically a collision of two trains. A third one was standing on a line which came as the coaches capsized. That also came in the ambit. There have been conflicting reports, and I've also gone by talking to some railwaymen and media reports. First, it was one train was coming at this wayside station. Couple coaches derailed. Within seconds, a train came from the other end and they collided. Now, this could have happened the way I described it because of some track defect. It did not throw up any signaling or human error of the loco pilot. Later, I have also heard that the Coromandel Express actually was to go on main line. It entered the loop line and collided with the goods train. And by the time the Bangalore train also came, and some coaches got derailed. I don't think I should get into conjecture of what actually happened at this stage. I can only say that except the case where the driver has overshot signals, which doesn't seem to be the case here, Kavach would not have helped in this. Kavach is a very good system.
Try and explain that. That's exactly what I'm trying to understand.
Yes,
these claims around Kavach, if Kavach had been operational, could this have been prevented?
Most likely no, because Kavach is a system which prevents any collision, either because of driver overshooting a signal or any other reason, because it overrides the driver and controls the speed or breaks the speed of a train. So unless it is seen that the driver has overshot a signal in this case, which to my mind appears improbable, because I've seen data logger pictures which show both the trains had through signals on main line. I don't think Kavach would have prevented this accident. Nevertheless, Kavach is a very powerful system to improve the safety of the railways, and less focus on Kavach is also a fact. More focus should be given for implementation of Kavach. Yes.
Okay, but how is it that both the trains ended up on the same track? Now, that's the question that remains significant. Even if Kavach is not there, is there no mechanism at all to prevent such an accident? A, you're saying Kavach may not have helped in this particular case if the circumstances were similar, but outside of Kavach, is there nothing which would have stopped an accident of this nature?
So the first version, trains did not go on the same track. One train derailed, and because of that, infringement and so on, this happened. The other version which says that the Coromandel actually went on the loop line on which a goods train was standing is worrisome, because signal failures, are fail safe. They fail safe. If they fail in a manner that they do not cause any accident. In this case, whether there is a rarest of rare interlocking failure and causing the train to go on the same track is something to be examined by the committee.
Now,
I
could
would
this
add
be
one
sabotage? Like, is this more likely human error? Could this be some kind of sabotage? Or do you think sabotage is unlikely?
Yes, I will answer this question in this manner. You see, the Commissioner of Railway Safety does an inquiry even if one person dies. Here, nearly 300 people have died. It's so massive that people would not really think that the Commissioner of Railway Safety is above suspicion in this case or impartial. I would say a judicial probe in this accident is called for, because the truth must come out, and it's been a big accident.
No, I didn't understand what you're saying. You're saying you're suspicious, but suspicious of what? What do you think happened?
No. I'm saying people may have a perception that the
No, forget people. What's your perception? You're the expert.
Yes, so about the probe, I do think it should be a judicial probe. And about my perception, most likely I would at this stage go with the first version. There was some defect either in the track or the coach, or as you said, it could be sabotage also. I cannot answer this question.
No, but I'm just trying to understand technically what could be the defect in the track or in the coach which would cause an accident of this nature?
Okay, so track can have, track is maintained or ill-maintained or maintained improperly, then can cause the fittings to be loose and so many things which can cause a derailment. A coach can also have many issues in its bogie and undergear which can cause a derailment. At that speed, it can be very devastating. And sabotage also, where some fittings are removed, increasing the gap between the track or causing a gap, can also cause a derailment. All three causes are possible.
Okay, I have some information coming in on what could potentially have gone wrong. A preliminary inspection is pointing to a botch up in the signal. The Coromandel Express was apparently given a green signal for this route. After the express entered the route, the signal was somehow taken off. It was too late for the Coromandel Express to stop by then. The express rammed into a goods train and derailed. Moments later, the Havra train rammed into the Coromandel. Now, I'm trying to understand this. How is it that a signal is given and the signal changes after the train is moved? How does that happen? Just explain that to us.
Technically, that cannot happen. So I don't know what this report is.
No, but this is some railway preliminary investigation report, which is what they're telling our correspondents. I'm trying to understand from you, if a signal is given, how does it change?
No, signal can fail, but signal to be after the train has crossed to be taken on, that means on means making red, is something that is technically not possible. So when they say signal failed, it would fail in a mode which is safe. It cannot cause the train to go given main line. It cannot enter the loop line. So to my mind, it can be a point defect or track defect or something like that.
What's a point defect?
A point defect is where the point is where you change track, either go to the loop line or main line. If there is a defect in that point, it can cause some coaches to derail at that point, and they would be dragged along.
Which would be a maintenance issue if it's not maintained properly.
Yes, if it can be a maintenance issue, yes.
Okay, so we're just trying to understand what could potentially have gone wrong. And remember, of course, you require a thorough probe. In fact, the gentleman on our show is asking for a judicial probe so that there is no sense of a possible cover-up, that there should be a judicial probe in this case. That's a voice coming from within the railways. I'm going to slip into a break. I'll have more for you when we come back. We're on this story non-stop. Our reporters are on the ground. We'll get you the latest updates from Balasore and more when we come back on the other side of a very quick break. You're watching India Today.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 39 and minimum 26 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 33 and minimum 28 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 41 and minimum 29 degrees. Bengaluru, maximum 34 and minimum 25 degrees. Chennai, maximum 37 and minimum 30 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 40 and minimum 31 degrees.
Why does this happen? Let me tell you the science behind it.
For more informative videos like this, keep watching India Today News Mode.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 39 and minimum 26 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 33 and minimum 28 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 41 and minimum 29 degrees. Bengaluru, maximum 34 and minimum 25 degrees. Chennai, maximum 37 and minimum 30 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 40 and minimum 31 degrees.
Why does this happen? Let me tell you the science behind it.
For more informative videos like this, keep watching India Today News Mode.
All political parties traveling from different parts.
Armed with facts,
Looking at political back.
she takes the news by its horns.
Do you think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold, and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories from every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.
ये बहुत ही दर्दनाक और ये स्पष्ट बयां करने वाला हिस्सा है।
डेड बॉडी है अभी तक, निकलता नहीं कभी, अभी है। हम लोग भी मिलके बहुत सारे रेस्क्यू किए।
ये रेलवे की पटरी है जो टूटकर नीचे से ऊपर तक पहुंच जाती है।
On India Today this evening, we are tracking the terrible tragedy in Balasore in Odisha. 3 trains involved in one of the worst train accidents anywhere in the world in this decade. Here are the headlines we're tracking tonight. Prime Minister Modi takes stock of the situation in Balasore, meets survivors in the hospital, promises that the guilty will not be spared.
जो भी दोषी पाया जाएगा उसको सख्त से सख्त सजा हो, उसे बख्शा नहीं जाएगा.
Signalling failure led to one of India's worst train tragedies. India Today accesses preliminary probe report into the Odisha train accident. Death toll rises to 261 in the Odisha train tragedy. Thousands are injured. Locals line up at the Balasore hospital to donate blood. Politics erupts over the tragedy. Mamata Banerjee says anti-collision system wasn't working while standing next to the Railways Minister. Ashwini Vaishnav fact-checks the Bengal CM after she claimed that 500 people were dead.
तो सुना कि इसमें 500 भी हो सकता है. 3 डिब्बा अभी तक नहीं रेस्क्यू हुआ है.
सारा कंप्लीट हो गया दीदी.
आप कंप्लीट होने के बाद कितना हुआ?
238.
238 कल था. उसका बाद
आज का जो ऑफिशियल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का जो डेटा है वो 238.
Bus carrying survivors of the Balasore accident meets with an accident in West Midnapur. No casualties reported. The mangled remains of the 3 trains that collided last night are still on the tracks. Thousands of injured passengers are being treated, and while the focus right now is on ensuring that help reaches those who need it the most, politics has erupted over this tragedy. The TMC, led by West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, is demanding the resignation of Railways Minister Ashwini Vaishnav.
Hours after one of India's worst ever train tragedies, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reached Balasore, Odisha. He waited till the rescue work got over before making the visit to the accident site. The Prime Minister was accompanied by Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav and Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, both from the state of Odisha. Later, he headed to a hospital to meet the injured. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee had visited the accident site earlier. She met Minister Vaishnav and took stock of the situation.
इतना लोगों को जिंदगी जैसे चला गया. मैंने तो सुना कि इसमें 500 भी हो सकता है. 3 डिब्बा अभी तक नहीं रेस्क्यू हुआ है.
सारा कंप्लीट हो गया दीदी.
आप कंप्लीट होने के बाद कितना हुआ?
238.
238 कल था. उसका बाद
आज का जो ऑफिशियल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का जो डेटा है वो 238.
While Mamata claimed that the time wasn't right for politics, her party men slammed the centre for not installing anti-collision devices on passenger trains on this route.
One must find out what are the causes of the accident. Responsibility must be fixed. In a similar accident in Gaisal, few years earlier, Nitish Kumar, who was the railway minister, had resigned. The railway minister, Ashwini Vaishnav, should consider whether he should resign also.
The Congress urged against any politicization of the tragedy.
I have to ask many questions to our great Prime Minister and also the Railway Minister. They have to answer why such things are happening and who is responsible for this. But today we have to extend the relief to the suffering people.
But many other opposition parties, including the Shiv Sena Udhav faction, RJD and PDP, struck a different note, demanding the railway minister's resignation.
3 ट्रेनें टकरा गई, ये मियर नेग्लिजेंस है, बेफिक्री है. तो जिम्मेदारी किसकी है? जिम्मेदारी रेलवे मंत्रालय की है. लेकिन इस सरकार में इतना बड़ा हादसा होने के बावजूद मंत्री जिम्मेदारी नहीं लेता है. हाँ, नैतिकता के आधार पर मंत्री ने इस्तीफा देना चाहिए।
किस तरह से इन लोगों ने लापरवाही बरता, सावधानी नहीं बरता और इतना बड़ा संख्या में कैजुअलिटी हो गई है। जो खबर है लगभग 800 लोगों की मृत्यु हुई है, बेसी भी होने की काफ़ी संभावना है। इसकी उच्च स्तरीय जांच कराया जाए और पूरा जो दोषी लोग हैं इसमें जिसकी संलिप्तता है उस पर कार्रवाई करना चाहिए।
I can call it only as a crime, not as a tragedy. It is a tragedy committed by the government. The only people responsible for this killing is the government of India. Taking that responsibility, the moral responsibility and the political responsibility, I demand the railway minister should resign immediately.
The BJP on its part has refused to be part of the political showdown.
अभी सारा का सारा फोकस रेस्क्यू पे है और कंप्लीट फोकस है जिस तरह से जिनके भी गहरी चोटें आई हैं उनको ठीक जगह पे पहुंचा के उनका इलाज कराया जाए और परिजनों के पास ठीक खबर पहुंचे, सारा फोकस उस चीज पे।
The railway minister has announced a special committee to investigate the reasons behind the tragedy. But will accountability be fixed? Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me now on India Today is former Railways Minister Dinesh Trivedi. Dinesh ji, your former party, the Trinamool Congress, asking for asking for Ashwini Vaishnav to step down. Now, the government has put out a whole host of advancements that have been made in trying to improve railway infrastructure. They're talking about Kavach, automatic block signalling, electronic interlocking, but none of that amounts to very much if at the end of the day almost 300 people die in the worst train tragedy anywhere in the world in more than a decade. Can you hear me?
Rahul, your voice is not clear at all.
Okay, give me a moment. I will just try and fix that connection with the former Railways Minister and go back to him in just a moment. I want to go across to Professor G. Raghuram. He's a former director at the IIM Bangalore, expert on railways infrastructure. Now, Professor Raghuram, the fact is that track renewal and maintenance, the government says 5,200 kilometers of complete track renewal are happening every year. This is much more than what's happened in the past. They're also citing data about track upgradation where 65% of the broad gauge track has been completed. But none of this, frankly, carries much value at a time when 300 people have died in arguably the worst train tragedy in a very long time.
Well, I definitely agree on the sentiment, Rahul, with 300 or as some numbers are, it could possibly be more depending on the injuries and the treatment or, the post-accident concerns. So definitely, maintenance, track upgradation, rolling stock issues and signaling issues all need attention. I think a significant bit is happening, and there is always this, small probability that something goes wrong. I hope it doesn't. Everything should be fail-safe. So definitely more attention is required on that. But I would also emphasize that post-accident emphasis, I think the Indian Railways need to pay a lot more on that. And what I mean by that is, how do we minimize the consequential damage? For example, the interior designs of the coaches. When a railway coach is thrown around, the bodies would get thrown around. And if you really see how an AC3 tier or a second class and, some of the ways in which they are held up, I think a lot of attention and a lot of experimentation, design issues have to be dealt with to minimize consequential impact. Then rescue. In fact, I wonder why the Indian Railways do not have helicopter fleets while they still follow the railway medical equipment, rolling stock, which visit accident sites. But could they not have fleet of helicopters positioned at different points in the country where, say, within the hour, the golden hour, as they often say, that they can quickly come, and of course, hopefully one would find a spot close by to any such accident spot and take people away and, add to the rescue. I think this is an extremely important step that the railways need to take. Of course, there is discussion on Kavach. I think a good thing is happening in terms of Kavach, but I'm not sure this kind of an accident is really, can be saved by Kavach. See, in Kavach, there are two active elements. The electronics need to speak to one another. But if you have a passive infringement on a track, there is a problem. And I really don't know, when you have a double track section, large part of the railway system is a double track section, and something were to happen to a train on one track, on the other track, when a train is, almost immediately coming, I think there is little much that can be done.
Okay.
Of course.
Dinesh Trivedi is back with us, the former railways minister. The government has been making claims, Mr. Trivedi, that 5,227 kilometers of track have been completely renewed. 65% of broad gauge track has been upgraded. But none of these claims mean much at a time when 288 people are dead in Balasore. And we're already seeing your former party, the Trinamool Congress, ask for the resignation of Railways Minister Ashwini Vaishnav.
Rahul, today is a day where the entire country, and I think everybody, is expressing their condolence. And there is no way you can really compensate the people who have, the families of near and dear ones who have lost their lives. Today is the day where we have got to understand and make sure that all those who are injured are given the best of the treatment, which the government is doing. Today is not the day where we can play politics on dead bodies. Those who want to play, so be it. There is nothing I can say. But having said that, all these things, there has been a lot of speculation. This must have happened, that must have happened. I personally feel that let's wait till the proper full report come. And I can tell you, and not as a BJP person, but knowing this Honorable Prime Minister, I think he will go to the depth as to what has happened. And as he said that this is a learning process also. You have seen during COVID time, when everybody has given up hope that nothing is going to happen, he kept his head down and worked. Having said that all, and I was listening to your discussion, that this train went into the loop line. How did it go into the loop line? It reminds me of an accident which took place in 2010. I think it was Gyaneshwari Express near Kharagpur. And the report found that it was a case of sabotage. So if this train has actually gone to the loop line, then there has to be some kind of a electronic thing, because the loco-pilot doesn't have a steering where he can go wherever he wants to go. This is controlled now electronically. And some kind of an interlocking system. Either somebody has done it on purpose, like in the case of Gyaneshwari Express. So what I am trying to say, do not rule out, whoever is doing inquiring, a case of sabotage. And this is a freak thing. It could never have happened. How did it happen? The pilot, the loco-pilot will not go onto the loop line on its own if that has happened. So I think there is something very strange, Rahul, and I think we should all wait till the actual report comes out, and I'm sure
some of the claims that have been made. No, listen, Dinesh ji, there are tall claims about the Kavach system. Now, first, we've heard from the Trinamool, they're saying this is essentially the anti-collision system that Mamata Banerjee spoke about when she was railway minister. More importantly, of the tracks in the country, only 2% of the tracks have the Kavach system installed. Now you're claiming that this has been sanctioned for many more places, but this government now has been in power for 9 years and they have to take responsibility for what's happening on their watch. This is no longer a situation where you can blame the UPA for an accident of this nature.
I think this is where anti-collusion system, even if it was there, and if somebody has done some trick and it has gone to the loop line, I don't think anti-collusion system is in question at this point in time, because if you look at the speed, anti-collusion system comes if a loco pilot jumps the signal. And I don't think so. This is a case where the loco pilot has jumped the signal, and if he has jumped the signal, automatically the train will come to a standstill. But this is not the case where he has jumped the signal. Signal was there. How did it go to the loop line if he has gone to the loop line? So obviously somebody might have fiddled around with the interlocking system, which is done electronically. My question is, I am not jumping into any conclusion because we cannot, till time the actual report comes. But this is a very strange situation, which was like in the Ganeshwari Express 2010, where the bogies were derailed and a goods train came and rammed into it. Somebody had played around with the track locking system. And this is somewhat similar. I'm not jumping into any conclusion. Nobody should jump into any conclusion till time the report comes. And I am confident, and again I say, I'm not talking as a BJP person, this government under the Prime Minister will go to all the length to find out, and that's why the Prime Minister said that nobody is going to be spared. And he himself is a person with a lot of feelings, and I'm sure this would be, which will see the light of the day. I have no doubt about it. But today is the time where we need to stand by with the families, and we are doing that.
I'll leave it there for the timing. Thank you very much for joining us, Dinesh Trivedi. You're suggesting what you think could have gone wrong in your experience as Railways Minister, but we need to see the result of a probe. Only then will we know what truly went wrong. Shilpa Nair is at the railway station where a rescue train is about to leave for Balasore, and she can take us through the efforts that are being made on the ground, where rescue preparations are underway, and what does this rescue train carry with it, Shilpa?
ऐसा है नहीं, इसलिए फ्लाइट से जा नहीं पाया, इसलिए मैं ट्रेन से जा रहा हूँ।
Well, Rahul, we are currently at the MGR Chennai Central Railway Station, and the railway officials here have made arrangements for the family members of the victims who have been affected by the train tragedy in Balasore to travel to Howrah and up to Bhadrak. So this is the special train which will be departing in just a short while from now, and I'm joined by Umesh. He is going to Howrah in search of his brother. Sir, आप हमें ये बताइए, आप क्यों हावड़ा जा रहे हैं? आपका कौन सा रिश्तेदार?
मेरा अपना छोटा भाई है, वो आ रहा था ना हावड़ा से, तो उसको उड़ीसा से पहले ही एक्सीडेंट हो गया। नाइट को फोन आया तो मेरा मोबाइल स्विच ऑफ था, तो मैं सुबह में देखा कि उसका फोन आया हुआ है, तो फिर कुछ देर के बाद वो फोन किया, वो बताया कि भैया मैं एक्सीडेंट हो रखा हूँ ट्रेन से। मैं सुन करके घबरा गया, वो भी रोने लगा। मैं उसको दिलासा दिया कि सब ठीक हो जाएगा भाई, तू टेंशन मत ले, मैं आ रहा हूँ।
और उनका हेल्थ कंडीशन अब कैसा है, तबीयत कैसा है?
अभी वो बोल रहा है कि मैं थोड़ा सही हूँ, आप जितना जल्दी हो आप आओ। अब जाने के बाद पता चलेगा, गॉड ऊपर वाला जो भी हो अब उसके ऊपर में है।
उनको मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट मिलने में कुछ मुश्किल हुआ? और
मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट उसका जो है ना, पट्टी वट्टी किया, दवा उवा लगाया, उसको पैरून में इंजेक्शन दिया। वो बोला कि इंजेक्शन दे रखा है डॉक्टर, पट्टी वट्टी कराया अभी, और बोला कि अभी मैं थोड़ा सही हूँ, अब जाने के बाद पता चलेगा कि वो कैसा है।
और आपको कुछ मुश्किल हुआ ट्रेन ढूंढने में या टिकट मिलने में? गवर्नमेंट तो ये बता रहे हैं कि ये फ्री में आपको लेके जा रहे हैं, क्योंकि आप लोगों की फैमिलीज को चाहिए, मदद चाहिए, तो इसलिए।
मैं बालाजा से अभी 10 दिन हुआ मैं गांव से आया था यहाँ पे, क्योंकि मैं 10 साल से यहाँ पे हूँ, तमिलनाडु चेन्नई में जॉब कर रहा हूँ, प्राइवेट जॉब। जब मेरा भाई का ऐसा हुआ सुना, तो मैं जाने के लिए कि उसके पास कैसे जाएगा, तो आया मैं स्टेशन पर टिकट के लिए। तो मेरे को पता चला कि टोटल ट्रेन कैंसिल है, तो मैं जाऊंगा कैसे? स्टेशन मास्टर के पास में रिक्वेस्ट किया कि सर मेरे को जाना है, मेरा भाई एक्सीडेंट कर गया, प्लीज सर हेल्प मी। तो मेरा टिकट बना करके दिया, बोला कि स्पेशल ट्रेन है, आप उसी से जाओ, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, गवर्नमेंट ने आप लोग के लिए व्यवस्था कर रखा है, आप टेंशन मत लो।
और आपके गांव से और लोग भी इस एक्सीडेंट में
and rebuilding the overhead electricity, and day after tomorrow rapidly working on the signaling system and other control systems, so that by Tuesday night or maximum latest by Wednesday morning we are in a situation where trains can start operating in a normal way.
Is it true that prima facie, is it a human failure or a lapse on the part of the railway?
It is not the right thing to do comment on this. Already the Commissioner of Rail Safety has started the inquiry, and we think that the inquiry will come out with a very clear result, and so let us wait for the inquiry. It is not proper on our part. It is not. सारा फोकस अभी रेस्टोरेशन पे होना चाहिए। ये समय है जब हम जो हमारे पैसेंजर्स की परिस्थिति है उस परिस्थिति को समझ के उनके साथ संवेदना के साथ काम करें, और जो अपनी जितनी शक्ति हो सकती है उतनी शक्ति लगा के रेस्टोरेशन करें।
सर, ममता बनर्जी ने एंटी कोलिजन डिवाइस को लेकर सवाल
ये एंटी कोलिजन डिवाइस का विषय नहीं है, ये विषय पॉइंट का विषय है। यानी अभी जैसे इंक्वायरी हो जाए एक बार, let the inquiry come out, then everything will be very clear. बिल्कुल पटरियों के टूटने का कोई मामला नहीं, लेकिन पूरी तरह से let the inquiry report come out, then only it will be appropriate to comment.
Any time frame on the inquiry?
Inquiry generally, this kind of inquiry should happen very fast is our general understanding, and hopefully within next 15 to 20 days inquiry report should be out, but still we'll keep pursuing.
They are raising demand for the that you should take a model.
I have told very clear terms, this is the time when we should fully focus on, with all our energy, all our strength, all our knowledge, we should fully focus on making sure that each and every passenger, their families, they are getting their dues. We make sure that the rescue operation gets completed, make sure that the restoration happens. That should be our focus at this point of time. मैंने आपको कहा बहुत तेज़ी से काम, आपने तो खुद ने काम देखा है, काम स्पीड से काम चल रहा है, बहुत तेज़ी से काम चलेगा। आज माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी भी विज़िट करके गए, उन्होंने हमको इंस्ट्रक्शंस दिए हैं किस तरह से काम को और तेज़ी से किया जा सके और पूरी संवेदना के साथ काम करें, किस तरह से सबको साथ लेके स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, एनडीआरएफ, एसडीआरएफ, आर्मी, एयरफोर्स, रेलवे के एम्प्लॉयज़, सबको साथ लेके, और ख़ासकर विशेषकर जो लोकल हमारे यहाँ के जनसाधारण है जिन्होंने कि ब्लड डोनेशन के लिए लंबी लंबी कतारें लगाई, रेस्क्यू के टाइम में पानी की सुविधा हो, खाने की सुविधा हो, हर तरह से मदद की, उन सबको साथ में लेके समाज और सरकार मिलके तेज़ी से रेस्टोरेशन पे फोकस करें।
लेकिन how do you explain that in express train like Coromandel Express has no anti-collision device?
You will come out when the inquiry report comes out. It will be absolutely clear. We know the inquiry report will bring out absolute truth. There is a very professional mechanism by which inquiry is done. It's an independent body, Commissioner Rail Safety, independent body. They will be doing the inquiry. इंक्वायरी रिपोर्ट से सब चीज़ साफ आ जाएगी।
सर, वो कवच सिस्टम जो है वो कब तक?
मैं आपको बता तो रहा हूँ, इस पर्टिकुलर अभी आप इस पर फोकस करो। डेथ टोल मैंने बताया 261 इज द नंबर विच स्टेट गवर्नमेंट हैज पब्लिश्ड। मैं आपको देखो, एक हमारी क्रिमिनल प्रोसीजर कोड है, सीआरपीसी है, वो क्लियरली ऑथराइज करती है किस तरीके से अगर कहीं पे डेथ का नंबर डिक्लेयर करना है, डेथ को डिफाइन करना है, वो सब उस तरीके से चलना चाहिए। वी आर अ लीगल लॉ एंड basically rule of law society. We should go by that and we should. मुझे पूरी hope है कि situation is now getting very much under control.
Thank you so much.
And मैं एक बार फिर personally request करूँगा, please अंदर न जाइए.
सर आप एक काम कीजिए, तो मैं आपको एक बात बता रहा हूँ, आप एक जोन बना दीजिए जहाँ पे डी एरिया कर दीजिए, वहीं पे सब लोग रहेंगे.
This Minister Ashwini Vaishnav speaking to journalists in Balasore, not wanting to get into what could potentially have caused the accident, suggesting instead that we wait for the inquiry report to come out. Remember, he's one of the most overworked ministers in the Modi government. He handles 4 very important portfolios. He's IT, posts, telecom, railways. That's a lot of work on his table. Indrajit Kundu was speaking to the railways minister there. He's on the ground in Balasore with us. Indrajit, could you try and summarize some of what the railway minister said, especially in connection with why Kavach isn't